Should we switch gears then to kind of get into the platform a little bit and show kind of,
Yeah, yeah. Let's
show the
see it.
pudding, right? Show the pudding. All right, let me see. As everybody knows, we at this portion of the discussion actually, look at our platform, and if everybody can see my screen right now, you all should be seeing the Rejuvi, the Rejuvi Venture, homepage, which is kind of the portal or the entryway to our platform. So hopefully, Rob, you can see that.
Yep, yep.
And obviously, when you come in here, you can go in and you can log into the system. Everybody has, folks who have subscription access to our platform will have their own usernames and passwords and the login credentials, for lack of another term. And when you log in, basically, you will be at our homepage or our landing page. We call, our leader insight and organization intelligence landing page. And like all things at Rejuvi, when we say we're breaking the frame, we're changing mindsets. We also want to change the conversation around what happens when you step into our world. What happens when you step into our platform? The thing is that when you step into our platform, we want you to have the mindset. We want you to be in the frame of mind, or we intend that you be in the frame of mind of asking questions about what do you want to do with your leadership bench? What is your purpose with your leadership bench? And that's why we laid out this way. And for today's purpose, because we're talking about breaking the frame and collecting information and data and how frequently, we'll go to the data collection part of our platform. And in the data collection part, once again, we use this profile to do our demos. Is once again, it's all about intentionality. So even we come to the data collection part of our platform, we're asking questions of you in terms of what type of data collection work do you want to get done. And since this is about collecting information and starting from the top, what I'm going to do is, we have the ability to collect data via assessments. And I'll just, for the purposes of today's discussion, show that, in this platform, in this world, you could quickly set yourself up to collect information. You could go in here and I'll just do this as a test. You can basically pick your start and you pick your end, and you can do a couple of things that are already very different when we compare this to what's existing in the real world today. So you could do what was traditionally possible. So you can collect information from the ecosystem, which is, information from your direct reports, partners, your manager and yourself. But you could also collect information from what we call a 270. So if you have, especially in the sales world, this becomes very important, is that you definitely collect the two constituents, which is yourself and your manager, but you could pick an option of either partners or direct reports, and you can basically add the assessment. So it's that simple, right? Once you do that, you go in, and here's where you can start adding your leaders. So you can go into manage, you can add your participant either directly, your name, email, or you can upload participants via a pre-identified, download sheet. Okay, so this goes very quickly, as you can see. And when we go back to the data collection space, you have the ability that you can manage your journey on this data collection, landscape. And you can manage your users, you can manage your assessments in terms of when you want to launch, when you want to kind of resend reminders. You can send, you can manage your communications as well. Now, why am I going through all this? The reason I'm going through all this is to basically show and demonstrate that within the platform, it's easily navigable. You could set it up very quickly. You can collect the information, and I can't go through the actual survey or the actual instrument where we collect the information, but we can collect all of that. Like I said, and we're clocking at 10 minutes. We commit to a 12-minute, service level agreement, for lack of another term, but we're collecting data less than 10 minutes per reviewer, per participant. And one thing I want to mention here before we jump into the resource part of the conversation is that you can actually collect this data on behalf of what you said, Rob, right? It's not elitist. It's not for just the C-suite and executives or the director level, leaders within an organization. That would be lead, but you could collect it for your sales leaders, your sales leaders out in regions who basically are building books of businesses and running accounts. You could collect it for service leaders, And you'll see the color change because that's what we call, you've entered a different, a different dimension of the Rejuvi platform. You could collect this data for service leaders and you could collect it for team leaders. Now, why does this become important? It becomes important because remember, when we say break the frame, breaking the frame is not just about the ability to create, higher order modeling, more qualitative, quantitative, approaches to how you want to understand this information and provide guidance, but and not only collecting it more frequent cycles, but it's also about collecting it for a more inclusive leadership bench. So we call this our hire to retire approach to leadership development. And this is, I think, another part of breaking the frame, that you can absolutely provide accessible, high quality leadership development to what we call the leadership bench, right? Your kind of your
Mhm.
executive leaders, your sales leaders, your service, your team. And what's coming actually in another quarter or two to the Rejuvi platform is what we're calling expert leaders. These are technical expert leaders that we provide, similar intervention and modeling and guidance for. So anyway, so that's the overview of how you navigate the data collection space. And when you do this, what you're able to do is you're able to collect, like I said, actionable and insightful data that you then provide interventions, and then leaders work on those, and then they improve, and you can tie it to business outcomes. But one thing that I wanted to cover today was also a resource. So like we've shown you before at these, in these demos, um, our platform basically has multiple offerings for what you want to do with your leadership bench. And one of those is resources to go. And resources to go, these are highly valuable, curated uh, resources that we put out in our ecosystem, which you referred to, Rob, which leaders can
Mhm.
look at, learn from, and teach themselves, or practitioners can as well, and administrators. But within this, the one thing that I wanted to show was a little bit of a demonstration of how does this data, or how can this data be leveraged, or why should we care about this data showing up for the entire leadership bench, right? And there's a resource we have, which we call our leadership bench building, document. And like you've all seen before, we click into the document, and it's actually a live view, a live preview of the document that's on our platform. And this particular document, I'll just go through it really quick, but wanted to provide everybody a perspective of, what does it mean to break that frame? What does it mean to be able to collect this data that's granular, that's frequent, that can be tied to business results? Is because you can have a much more differential impact on your entire leadership bench. So that beautiful picture in front of you, overlooking the horizon and watching the sunrise, we envision that bench to include all leaders, all those different segments of leaders that I was just referring to within the platform. And imagine if that was the bench, and imagine those leaders would be not only your traditional leaders that have always been included on that bench, which makes it probably an elitist sport, if you may, is senior leaders, right? And so over here, we have a profile of a leader whose name is Sadhana Onassis. And basically, she's a CMO for a startup biotech firm. And if you kind of go through this document, what you'll notice is that we basically take the profile, and we're trying to understand, why does Sadhana's growth matter? And it matters because the biotech industry, like in many industries, speed is vital. There is a lot of change going on, but there is the opportunity for us to understand a little bit why the growth matters, and then we tie the advanced modeling to why that and what the growth needs to be, which is kind of over here. And we call this our kind of how a leader thinks to drives, and how a leader builds and sustains a business. And this ecosystem would tell you, based on the analytics, based on all that very frequent high quality data being collected, we can actually provide a profile for someone like Sadhana. This is just an example, that this leader is very, very, very well developed, if you may, on the think side, of the behaviors that that help drive the business, and this opportunity to be working on the drive side of the of the equation here. And then you provide that guidance. And for a leader profile like Sadhana, guess what? You collect this data, right, Rob, every 12
Yep.
weeks. And then you look at the heat map, and you understand, okay, this heat map is primarily green at the bottom and yellows, reds at the top. Over time, as we work with Sadhana, what we're trying to see is that this heat map is a little bit more equally distributed. That's the idea
Hmm.
here. And guess what? When that heat map gets equally distributed, you absolutely tie that movement in causal ways to business outcomes, right? So
Yep.
you, or for someone like Sadhana, it becomes a game changing experience where she comes into this leadership development journey, learning what the opportunity is, working on it, remeasuring it, and then tying it back to why and for what this growth matters to her very specifically, right? You can do
Yeah.
this not only
Hmm.
for someone like Sadhana, but you could do it for someone like, Cordelia, right? And Cordelia is a service leader. Once again, here you can see with Cordelia, in this case, there's an opportunity to develop what we call her alignment corridor. Technical jargon, we'll unpack that in other conversations, but you can see the greens and yellows are across these two quadrants, and the opportunities to improve or work on these two quadrants. Once again, in 12-week cycles, you collect the data, you provide feedback, you provide interventions, feedback loops,
Yep.
and on you go. So, when you think about all this, I'm just going to stop sharing for a second here. But when you think about what we just demonstrated, um, that's the power of breaking the frame, right?
Yeah.
You go from start to finish in a holistic manner, very, very quickly, not dumbing down the quality, and you do it repeatedly at scale because it's for all leaders. And better yet, not only do you do it repeatedly just for doing it repeatedly, you look at those incremental improvements as you're doing it repeatedly and tie them to business results. That's why it's so important to break the frame. Thoughts, Rob?
Yeah. It's I like it. It's it's one of those things where um that and I can just see, I'm imagining my own heat map and seeing over time how you can watch your own development, uh, in I was going to say black and white, but it's in vibrant color.
Red, yellow, green, to be
Yeah,
precise. Yeah.
yeah. And I think, from my experience as a leader and in my leadership development journey, you know, that's something, that's, as I said before, that's what I've needed and what I've wanted is, help me understand, on an ongoing basis, am I making progress in these areas or not? Um,
Yeah.
I don't want to find out 12 or 18 months from now that I missed the mark on what I should have been working on.
Yeah.
If in 12 weeks, if I'm not making progress or I'm not making the right amount of progress, is there something else I need to do? Is there a different type of intervention that we need to do?
Yeah.
Or if I've made progress in one area, now I can start to focus on another.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And remember again, everything you said is super critical, and I obviously, agree with it. But, remember what we're doing here again. At the end of the day, our entire purpose here is to create, just much more agile organizations. Once again,
Right.
they're agile with the ability to measure, right, to compare and adjust purposefully, frequently, and with intentionality. So there you have it. So break the frame,
Yep.
right? So wonderful. Well, Rob, as always, all good things go quickly and they come to an end. So we're at the end of our cycle here for today's topic. So thank you again for joining. Really appreciate it and enjoyed the conversation, and look
Yeah.
forward to
Thank you.
having
I
you
did as
back
well.
again. Yeah. Yeah,
Thanks, Vid.
excellent. And for everybody tuning in, thank you for joining. Really appreciate you all being here. Please join us again for another Rejuvi 45 session in a week's time. on May 18th, we will be doing a topic that's referred to as the quantum leap. Look forward to sharing that. And if you're listening in and you like what you hear, please come back again. More importantly, also bring some friends. On that note, have a great rest of the day, and thank you for joining, everybody.